9. I'm delighted to join Phil Healy and Shane McCormack to the show this morning. Phil, congratulations and commiserations at the same time. You know, when the dust settles and you're home now, how do you actually feel about finishing fourth?
Look, I am delighted to finish fourth. I know some people will be disappointed to be so close to the medals, but I gave it everything and I walked off that track knowing I gave it everything, and I ran the quickest time that I've ever ran in my third race in 36 hours. So I couldn't be happier with fourth. That's
the thing, isn't it? Like the rest of the world looks and we're all obsessed by medals, but actually if you do your very best, there's literally nothing else that you can do.
100%. And in Ireland, a lot of the time success is measured on if you bring home a medal or not. And like, there's some people out there in the Irish team did their best and they made the semi-final, and that's a medal to them. So no, like, there was nothing more that I could do. I produced the quickest time of my life on that championship final, which is not necessarily always going to happen in championship finals. So no, that, as I said, the fourth is a medal for me, and I'm looking forward to taking it on into the summer.
And here's the thing, it's okay to be disappointed that you didn't actually get one of the medals, at the same time to drive yourself on and to use that inspiration. So it's kind of, it's complicated enough.
100%, because I was so close to the medals. There's only 0.2 in it between fourth and third. So like, I'm still that little bit that will 100% drive me on to be in the medals and on the podium the next time. So 100%, there's so many takeaways from it. With arriving on that scene, being in contention with all these world-class athletes, but still just falling that little bit short to drive me on for the next championship.
Shane, what was your experience like screaming at the telly?
Wasn't good. I wouldn't like to relive it too many times. No, obviously it was an unbelievable experience, but the nerve side of it, being stuck in a sitting room and trying not to have my 2-year-old crying every time I was screaming at the television.
She got sent to
bed. She got sent to bed for the final. It was the safest option. So, but it was brilliant. I'm normally trackside or I'm with Phil. Like there hasn't been too many races where we haven't been together. So look, it was a different dynamic, but you know, maybe it's a dynamic that we have to look at going forward. Maybe I should stay away more often, you know.
What's that like for you then, Phil? Are you Skyping or Zooming kind of regularly during the week? How much do you rely on coaching in the middle of the actual event itself?
100%, and like, it was very different for me because Shane, like, this is in the 7 years that Shane has coached me, this is probably his fourth race that he's ever missed, and it was just a very different experience in general with COVID tests, with wearing a mask, and but I was onto Shane right up to when I went into the call room for the final. So we had everything discussed throughout the week, and he might as well have been there that we were in contact that much. But no, it was a different experience, but it was the same for everybody. And it's something that will probably be that way in future championships as well, with everything going on. So it was a good trial run for what's to come.
Phil, can I ask, when you talk about your personal best there, I presume all the training about that is about yourself and how you can get the very best out of you. At the same time, does there need to be a little bit of focus on how you're going to run the race tactically?
100%, and especially earlier in the heat and the semi-final, because it's all about getting that qualification. And I knew, say, in the heat that I had the Swiss girl outside me, and I knew she was going to take off hard, but I needed to be at the bell before her because she's about 6 foot tall. So like, trying to pass her on the bends is really, really hard. So times go out the window as such when it comes to a championship. It's needed for seeding going into the championship to get a good lane. But say when we came to that final, all the pressure was kind of off as such, because it was just like a new championship. It was a one-off race, and anything can happen. And I knew the girl inside me, again, that we were discussing with Shane beforehand, was going to go off really hard, because she has gone off really hard throughout her whole indoor season. So I had to be in contention at the bell, and we went through really quick. We did a 23.8 second split, which has been my quickest split ever in a race. But to be rewarded with a PB when it's a messy race, like I ran the second lap of the final in lane 2, I ran the last 50 meters in lane 4. So for me, there's great signs and great positive signs that I can take it on. If it was a clean race, that I can definitely lower that PB a lot more.
Do you know during the race how fast the split is for the first one? Like, is there a clock there that you kind of have a glance at, or is it just a sense that feels pretty fast?
in the heat, I could see, because I was at the bell first, and the clock does stop, so it's just a slight glance. But in the semi and in the final, I had no idea. It was just about getting to the bell in the best possible position that I could. But when I crossed the line, I knew it was going to be a quick time overall, and the times did take a while to come up. But just to see the 51.94 and the PB after it was extra sweet.
Shane, does your coaching change massively from not being there? Do you spend much more time focused on the opposition in a way, or would you have done that anyway?
No. Like, look, I think you just have to think on your feet, right? And I think Phil has experience now, you know, from having competed in 2 previous European indoors and a World Indoors. So I don't think it's a type of event, and it's not that indoors is you know, it's like it's a battle, right? And you have to. I think I heard Billy Welsh talk about how he trains boxers before, you know, that the end goal is a universal boxer, right? Somebody that can fight any style, any opponent, right? And I think indoor running is you have to prepare the athlete to be the universal athlete, and just be able to ultimately think on their feet, because you can plan, like, you know, you have the best laid plans, right, till you get that punch in the face, right? So, you know, I think the punch in the face for us the weekend was Jodie Williams in lane 1, but at the same time we knew that she was going to do that. She even said it on the bus in the way into the race in front of Phil, you know what I mean? So like you kind of know how it's going to pan out indoors. It's just going to be messy, you know.
Phil, I think the whole country knew that you were going to run a personal best when you left the piece of toast and his hand hanging and you didn't high-five him. We knew that you were in the zone at that point.
100%, because I was already called back when I was walking out because I didn't stay long enough at the camera, so there was no stopping me after that. But look, it was great to get the coverage back home, and it definitely gave everybody a lift, and it was a great job done by Rob, Derville and David in studio to promote the sport, because it's obviously a minority sport, so we definitely gained an awful lot of new fans over the weekend, which is great to see as well.
I think the madness of indoors is really compelling as a TV sport, and obviously it would be much better if there was you know, however many mad Polish people screaming at it. But that chaos that you're talking about, it is a contact sport. It's not supposed to be, but indoor running seems to be fairly vicious, loads of potential for stuff to go badly wrong, and at the end of it, there's a mad dash. It's like the perfect TV sport in many ways.
100%, and it is really entertaining. And for the athlete, no race is going to be the same. Like, it's different to outdoors, and anything can happen at the bell. Like, last in 2019 at European Indoors, I was clipped from behind and the girl fell. In 2017 at European Indoors, they fell in front of me. So anything can happen. You just have to, like, run your own race at a certain point, but you're also conscious of everybody else around you. So it is different in that element to outdoors, but it definitely brings an entertainment factor for everyone watching.
Yeah, and Shane, how do you coach that? Is it like a little bit of MMA thrown into the mix from every 6 months or so?
Phil has a GA background from her early years, so that I said, elbows up under the high ball, you know. So look, there is an element of sharpening the elbows at the bell, because that's where the contact does happen. So, you know, previous to the championships, we would have done a few sessions with Sophie Becker, who runs with the Dublin Track Club, coached by Jeremy Lyons, and Jeremy's good at covering all the bases, and some things that we would have worked on is Sophie and Phil running off together off the bend and coming into a little bit of minor contact and a little bit of disruption. Like, so it is something that you kind of have to plan and prepare for as well, you know.
And that's obviously completely different then from outdoor. Outdoor is pure speed.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you have your own lane, and it's a little bit easier, and you can control your energy a little bit better. So somebody like Phil, her speed, you know, her 200-meter speed helps a lot in the first lap, whereas outdoor maybe she can hold back a little bit because it's not about getting in front of the bell. So it's polar opposites, really, you know.
I saw a photo on social media over the course of the weekend, Phil, of yourself and Orla Cronin as children. She won an All-Star at centre forward on the Camogie Team of the Year at the weekend. That's a great story. One I saw, like West Cork flying their flag high over the course of the weekend. Like, it's an unbelievable level of success from a small enough place.
100%, and Orla only lives down the road from me, and like, it was unbelievable to see that picture, a right throwback. But no, it's great, and the talent, and like I always keep saying it, like the talent that is in West Cork across all sports to the highest level, like, it's unbelievable to see it flying that flag at the national level and international level, and getting the recognition for it, and the work that Orla has put in as well is super to see that she was rewarded with her first All-Star. But it's great for the small village that we live in, and going to the same school and different things like that. I would have played camogie with Orla right up to when I was about 16. So it's great to see that West Cork was definitely trending for the weekend.
Shane mentioned that GAA background. How good were you at camogie?
Oh, I think I'll leave it to the sprinting for now. But no, I did enjoy it the whole ways up, and I just had to focus on one sport when I did come to that age of 16, 17. So camogie was the one that was dropped, and I did do football and stuff as well along the way. But yeah, athletics took the focus because Jo, my sister, was doing it as well, so it was easier to keep that going, especially when we're both going to the same places for training and stuff like that.
Phil, I just wanted to ask you about that before we move on. I've heard you talk before about you want to enjoy your sport, particularly as a teenager, and there's a big piece on the radio show this evening about dropout rates in teenage girls and the studies that are going on at the moment. What's your advice to kids, and particularly to parents of kids who might be struggling to juggle sports or feeling a bit of pressure to perform in those sports? What kept you going? Why did you keep going back?
Look, and again, sport at that age, it's like if you don't win, it's like a failure. It's seen as a failure, and people need to move away from that mentality, because like when I was in athletics, I was told maybe it's not the sport for me, but I stuck with it, and I was never making finals. I was never winning anything, but I stuck with it, and like I've come a long way since. But if I listened to those that said maybe it's not the sport for me and I packed it in, I wouldn't have achieved what I have now. So it's about every kid needs to focus on what they enjoy, and not like their friends might be off doing something else, or saying to them, why are you doing this and why don't you do this? Focus on what you enjoy, and you don't have to win. If you enjoy it and do your best and improve in any way that you can do, knowing that you've given it your all, then you have to be happy within that. But it's great for kids to include sport in any way that they can, and if they have to pull it back slightly with schoolwork and different things like that, do so, but definitely have that balance in there to distract you at the same time. And it's an outlet for kids, and especially with the times that we're in, kids need any extra interaction and sport that they can get at the moment. No, definitely.
Look, really looking forward to hearing that piece tonight with Jo from 7 o'clock. Shane, I did want to talk to you. You mentioned that Phil's GAA background. Your own GAA background is fairly well established. You've worked with the tip hurlers, amongst others, at a very high level. I have this feeling that sprinting in Ireland is one of those things that we haven't yet quite woken up to at a mass level, that we haven't quite yet understood the impact of injecting speed training into all of the training sessions that everybody does at all levels would fairly radicalise the outcomes in our sports. Am I right about that?
Yeah, no, you're on the money. Yeah, 100%. But I do think it is happening. I do think there is a little bit of a mini revolution here. And look, not to go back on history, but at one point, we the Gaelic Athletic Association, athletics was a cornerstone of the GAA, and I think we did a lot more. We did a lot more sports across the board. Like everybody ran, everybody jumped, everybody. You know what I mean? We did the fundamentals, and we people grew up doing athletics and playing football and hurling. So I think the segregation, I think maybe has impacted the athletic development of our field-based sports players. Not across the board, you know what I mean? But I do think kids are maybe growing up within the GAA now, and they haven't mastered those basic fundamentals of jumping and hopping, and we live in a world now where the kids don't jump off walls anymore. They're not climbing trees. It's very, we're a little bit cotton wool now. So yeah, no, I do. I think, but you can see it's happening. You can see that the counties are obviously going after it, and I was a very small cog in a big Tipperary wheel, which was a fantastic experience for me. But there's definitely is people are copping on that. Look, a faster player, how is that going to if you have a skillful hurler or a skillful footballer, how is not being that little bit quicker going to hurt?
Yeah, and the point is that anybody can actually learn to be faster.
Anybody, like at any age, right? Anybody. I've seen people come back from chronic injuries at 30. We worked with Ali Miller. Ali Miller was an unbelievable athlete. She was an unbelievable rugby player. She used to come down and do sessions with myself and Phil, I suppose, towards the latter end of her career, when she felt that maybe she was losing a little bit of that pace. She got it back, but then she went and had this unbelievable, double compound fracture of her leg, which should have really ended her career. But Ali bin Ali said, I'm putting the head down, I'm coming back. And she nearly came back after that injury with, great rehab, obviously, with her physio, the IRFU and all that. But she worked really hard at the fundamentals of running for that year. Came in with a limp and basically finished faster than she ever did, right? So anybody can get faster, yeah.
Is this something that we should be drumming into everybody, that let's teach our kids how to sprint?
I think we need to look, and we need to look at how can athletics and other sports work better together. Like it seems that, when we talk about facilities, funding, stuff that maybe isn't readily available in athletics but is in other sports, like there has to be crossover somewhere where sports can come together. And there's a world of athletic coaches out there in Ireland, but look, as we all know, athletic coaches are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. I have a day job. I have a family. Myself and Phil have gone on this journey, but a lot of it is sacrifice, and that's our choice. I'm not sitting here looking for, I'm great or a pat on the back. But there's people, like what happens to the next Phil Healy that comes along and the coach doesn't have the ability to do that. But so maybe there is some cohesion across sports and a come together in a partnership that can benefit not only the clubs, the field-based clubs, but also athletic coaches and athletic clubs.
It feels like that's the next step in the unlocking of the potential of all the people that, there are going to be some sprinters, there are going to be some middle distance runners who will also be GAA players or rugby players or soccer players, and that everybody would benefit from a chat. Here, have you tried this, or we learned this? Just the sharing of information.
Yeah, exactly. It's about partnerships. It's about mentorships. It's about communication. It's about not having walls up, like dropping the egos and just talking. You know what I mean? There's a lot, because there's a serious amount of bright minds out there. And at the end of the day, running is, if you look at what the distance runners are doing in Ireland, there's an endurance element to field-based sports. If you look at what the sprint coaches are doing, there's speed there. So there's a lot of really, really smart minds out there that, and there's plenty of clubs and some fantastic, Phil came from an unbelievable club in Bandon that gave her the tools and the grounding and the ability that when she hit 18 that she was ready for the next level. So that's probably an element in athletics that is probably the grey area. It's that you're talking about participation and dropout rates. So the dropout rate kicks in big time at 18, 19, 20, and that's something in our sport I think that needs to be looked at, because that's where interventions are needed. That's where Phil reached out to me at 18 off her own back.
Yeah.
So that was Phil that took control of her destiny in that way. And we had to go on our own journey. It's had ups and downs, but thankfully it's worked out for the most part.
And Phil, speaking of that journey, what's next for you over the next couple of months as we all wait and hopefully build up to what we all hope will happen in August or July or whenever the Olympics do actually happen?
Yeah, so it's going to be a quick turnaround now, and we'll go back into a training block, and it'll be outdoor season before we know it, and hopefully that we potentially have world relays at the start of May, and then it'll be just kicking off individually again. But qualification for Olympics ends at the end of June. At the moment, I am qualified in the 200 for Tokyo. I'm ranked 29th out of the top 56 in the world, so I just need to secure that position and hopefully lower it further. And we're definitely going to try and qualify for the 400 for Tokyo as well. They don't clash over there, so when it's a possibility, why not go after it? And the qualification process takes your aggregate of your 5 best times, and the 2 performances from this indoor season will really stand to me in terms of bonus points and just quick time. So indoor points carry a big weighting, so that'll be really good to take into my ranking system, and hopefully get 3 quality races outdoor and take it on into a big summer with Tokyo as the final competition.
Well, listen, congratulations on your personal best of the weekend. Literally the whole country was watching, so it was great, and it's a brilliant start to the season for you. Thanks a million to both of you for being so generous with your time again this morning. Thanks a million. Great to talk to you both.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks a million.